The unseen kin. Mara awoke to the most curious sensation. Her heart pounded in her chest like an unhinged metronome, her breath shallow and frenzied. The darkness of the room seemed to press against her from all directions, as if attempting to suffocate her in its inky embrace. She struggled to sit up, her limbs heavy with terror, her thoughts disoriented and foggy. Moonlight seeped through the narrow gap in her curtains, casting a dim glow upon the foot of her bed. There, she saw it, a small figure sitting, legs crossed, its pallid face turned towards her. Mara's blood turned to ice, and her breath caught in her throat. Who are you?" she managed to whisper, her voice trembling. The figure smiled, the shadows accentuating his cherubic features. "I'm Lucas, your little brother." Mara's mind raced, her heart drumming wildly in her chest. She had no brother, younger or otherwise. She was an only child. Yet here he sat, a boy who looked hauntingly familiar, his eyes burning into her soul. "Impossible," she breathed, her hands gripping the bed sheets tightly. "I don't have a brother." Lucas tilted his head, his lips twisting into a pained frown. "You've just forgotten, Mara. But I'm here now, and I want to be with you again." Mara's mind refused to accept the reality before her, yet there was an inexplicable pull that Lucas exuded. It was like a siren's song, beckoning her to surrender to the darkness. She couldn't shake the overwhelming sense of familiarity that clung to the child like a malevolent shadow. Lucas rose from the bed, his eyes never leaving hers. "Come, Mara. Let me show you our past." Mara hesitated, her instincts screaming for her to flee. But as she stared into the depths of his eyes, she found herself unable to resist his allure. She rose, her body numb and her mind racing, and followed Lucas out of her room. He led her through the moonlit corridors of their family home, a place Mara had known her entire life. Yet, as they walked, the house seemed to morph into something unfamiliar, something sinister. The shadows stretched and twisted around them, whispering secrets from the abyss. At last, they reached the door to the basement, a room Mara had always been forbidden to enter. Her parents had been adamant that the room was nothing more than a storage space, a place where old memories gathered dust. But now, standing on the precipice of the unknown, Mara couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding. Lucas turned the knob, and the door creaked open. A gust of stale, musty air wafted out, as though the very bowels of the earth had exhaled. He led her down the rickety steps, their footsteps echoing in the darkness. The basement was a place of chaos and decay. Tattered boxes and discarded belongings littered the space, the detritus of countless forgotten years. The air was thick with a palpable malevolence, as if the room itself was alive and hungry. Lucas moved through the clutter with the ease of a ghost, guiding Mara to a corner hidden behind a tangle of old furniture. There, in the heart of the basement, stood an ancient wooden door, its frame carved with symbols that seemed to squirm and writhe in the dim light. "This is where our story begins," Lucas whispered, his voice barely audible over the oppressive silence. "This is where we were torn apart." Mara stared at the door, her body trembling with a mixture of fear and curiosity. "What happened?" Lucas's expression darkened, his eyes gleaming with a mixture of sorrow and rage. "Our parents, Mara. They made a terrible mistake. They made a pact with something that dwells beyond the veil of our world. In exchange for power, for wealth, and influence, they gave away something precious, their own children." Mara felt her stomach churn, her mind reeling with the implications of his words. But they loved me. They wouldn't. Lucas shook his head, his eyes pleading. They loved you, yes. But they feared what they had done. They tried to undo their mistake, to protect you. They erased your memory of me, of our bond, and locked away the truth behind this door. But the pact could not be unmade. The darkness was already part of our family, festering like cancer. The symbols on the door seemed to pulse with sinister energy, drawing Mara's gaze. She reached out, her hand trembling, and touched the cold wood. As her fingertips brushed against the carvings, a jolt of energy coursed through her, filling her with terrible knowledge. She saw the darkness that her family had embraced, the horrific sacrifices they had made in the name of power. She saw the abyss yawning open, its hunger insatiable, its reach unending. And she saw Lucas, her brother, ripped from her life and cast into the void. Mara stumbled back, tears streaming down her face. How can we fix this? How can we undo what they've done? Lucas took her hand, his touch cold as ice. We cannot undo the past, but we can forge a new future. We can free ourselves from the darkness and from the curse that haunts our family. Together, they approached the door, the symbols seeming to scream in protest as they drew closer. Lucas's grip on Mara's hand tightened, his determination unwavering. We must confront the darkness, Mara, he said, his voice trembling. We must face it and banish it from our lives forever. Mara hesitated, the weight of the task daunting. But as she looked into her brother's eyes, she found a wellspring of courage she had never known before. She nodded, her jaw set with resolve. They pushed open the door, revealing a chamber that seemed to stretch into infinity. The darkness within was absolute, swallowing the light from the basement as if it were a ravenous beast. As they stepped over the threshold, the door slammed shut behind them, sealing them within the void. The darkness was suffocating and oppressive. Mara felt as if she were drowning in an ocean of despair, her lungs filling with cold blackness. But Lucas's presence was a beacon, a lifeline that anchored her to reality. Stay close, he whispered, his breath a ghostly caress against her ear. We must find the heart of the darkness and sever its ties to our family. They ventured deeper into the abyss. The silence is broken only by the echoing of their footsteps. Mara clung to her brother's hand, her only tether to sanity in a world gone mad. At last, they reached a place where the darkness seemed to pulse with terrible energy, the air crackling with malice. There, at the very heart of the void, stood a monstrous figure, its form shrouded in shadows, its eyes like burning embers. "Ah, the lost children come to play," the creature hissed, its voice a cacophony of discordant whispers. "You seek to free yourselves from my grasp, but you do not understand the depths of your folly." Mara felt the fear threatening to overwhelm her, but Lucas stood resolute. "We are not your playthings any longer. We will break the pact that binds us, and you will have no hold over our family." The creature laughed, the sound like the scraping of nails on a chalkboard. "You believe you can defy me? You are but insects, crushed beneath the weight of my power." "We are not afraid of you," Lucas shouted, his voice echoing in the darkness. "We are stronger together, and we will break free from your curse." The creature's eyes burned brighter, its malice is almost tangible. "Then come, children. Face me, and face your doom." Mara and Lucas held on to each other, their bond a source of strength in the face of the monstrous being before them. They drew upon their shared courage and determination, their love for one another fueling their defiance. As they stood united, the darkness seemed to waver, the creature's hold on their family beginning to weaken. The siblings felt an almost tangible force surging between them, a power born of their love and their refusal to succumb to the darkness. With a final, desperate cry, they unleashed that power, a torrent of light and hope that pierced the heart of the abyss. The creature's scream was deafening, its form crumbling and dissipating as the light washed over it. The darkness shrank away, the void collapsing in on itself as the siblings' power banished the creature and the malevolent force it represented. The oppressive weight that had hung over their family for so long was lifted, and the darkness was replaced by a sense of peace and freedom. As the void crumbled around them, Mara and Lucas found themselves standing in the now illuminated basement, the door to the abyss reduced to splinters. The symbols that had once adorned it were gone, the power they held forever broken. Hand in hand, the siblings ascended the basement steps, and the bond between them forged anew. They emerged into a world of light and hope, the shadows of the past cast aside, and the curse that had haunted their family forever vanquished. Together, they would face the future, united in love and strengthened by the knowledge that the darkness could never claim them again. The unseen kin had been reunited, and nothing could tear them apart.